Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. I am Jewel Williams. You are watching my channel, and I like to do videos in relationship to the trucking industry, transportation industry, as I call myself a transportation thought leader and so forth. I've been in this industry for over 28 years. So all this stuff going on that you see with gas prices high, you can't get stuff on the shelves, and you're wondering what is happening, I'm here to help you get some context. Before I get started, let me do a shameless plug. If you like using or making videos and you're looking for something to help you make your videos and cut down on your post-production and editing, Ecamm Live is a great piece of software. I use Ecamm Live for all my production videos, as it helps me just seamlessly throw my videos together, adding in my sound, adding in the video overlays and all that good stuff. And I don't have to worry about going back and post-production and fixing all that stuff. Because for me, I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to spend a lot of time editing. I might do a little clip here, but I like to just have it all in one, and Ecamm Live is the software I like to use. So if you like something like that, and click the link in the description, I will get a little something. I am an affiliate marketer for them, so just want to give that shameless plug. Now, what are we going to be talking about today? So these gas prices aren't going down, y'all. I'm telling you, you're not going down. Now, this video, I'm gonna do another reaction video in this episode, and in this video, the Surface Transportation Board had a hearing in April, and this video is part of that hearing. Now, the video itself is like 8 hours long. I'm going to go through not a big portion of it. I'm going to say probably a good 30 minutes. And the section that I'm going to be going over is the Pilot Flying J CEO is giving his testimony in regards to what is happening between freight moving on the rail yard and fuel prices. There is a correlation. Everything moves by a truck, yet in intermodal transportation, some things move by all forms. So you've got sea vessels, you've got truck, you've got rail, you've got air. Those are the four main transportation modes. So a lot of times, to save cost, companies use the rail yard to move the freight across the United States. Once it gets to a rail yard, a truck will come in, pick it up from the rail yard, and dray it is what they call drayage, or move it to a facility where it would be either unloaded or something like fuel. It will be taken in to their fuel tanks or dropped off at taken to their fuel stations and loaded into the ground and so forth. So this particular video adds some really good context as to what is going on with the transportation. So I'm gonna flip up over here, and we are gonna let's get it.
Let me just call the roll to make sure everybody's up here. Pilot travel. I better put. Shamik Konar. Knit League, Ross Cortell.
Yes, sir.
American Forest and Paper, Julie Landry. Packaging Corporation, PCA. Good morning. National Association of Chemical Distributors, Jennifer, Jackie, and Occidental, Carrie Ann Segman. International Liquid Terminals. Catherine Clay? No? Well, you know what? It may be her plane's late or Metro's on fire or something. Well, she'll get here later. And if so, we'll call her up here. I know that Mr. Konar has got to get in and out, right? So we're going to ask him to testify. If we have some questions, we'll ask him, and then we're going to send him on his way. Fair enough, and then we'll have the full panel.
I had to pause that for a minute. I apologize because as I was sitting here watching, I really didn't give you guys context into what the Surface and Transportation Board is. Who are they? All that good stuff. So I'm going to flip up over here and we're going to check it out. I'm over here on their website. So let me just flip over. So the Surface and Transportation Board is an independent federal agency that is charged with the economic regulation of various modes of surface transportation, primarily freight rail. The STB exercises its statutory authority and resolves disputes in support of an efficient, competitive, and economically viable surface transportation network that meets the needs of its users. That's what this board is. So it is an independent agency. And this particular hearing I did find on their YouTube channel. And just note that, you know, these are things that you're not probably going to get an announcement about when this stuff comes out. So this particular hearing, like I said before, happened in April. Yes, it is July. Yet, as we go through this particular scenario, you're going to see why gas prices are where they are. You're going to have a little bit of understanding of why some things are not on the shelves the way they should be, and I'm going to be adding that in as we go through. So let me move back over here as he continues with his roll call.
Panel. So with that, Mr. Konar, the microphone's yours.
Chairman Oberman, members of the Surface Transportation Board, thank you for inviting me to testify today. My name is Shamik Konar. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Pilot Flying J. We operate the largest network of travel centers in the United States, serving the U.S. trucking industry and four-wheel customers. We currently account for approximately 20% of the country's highway, or as we call it, over-the-road diesel supply.
Okay, so first off, this man right here is the CEO of Pilot Flying J. And when I was doing over-the-road trucking, Pilot Flying J was the main fueling spot that my company sent me to. It wind up becoming getting under some controversy because it turned out that they were fixing prices for I want to say they were charged, the prior CEO was charged with some type of fuel kickbacks or something. I can't get into it because I really don't know the full gist of it, but the company is pretty much the main go-to, the main vein of truckers when they want fuel. So if you're getting into the industry and you're like, ooh, where do I fuel up? Chances are it's going to be Pilot Flying J. Now, Pilot and Flying J used to be two separate companies. Flying J was well known for its high standards of showers and fuel spots and truck spots for truckers to come in and rest. And then Pilot went on a buying spree, and this was when fuel, around 2016, I think it was, that Pilot started buying companies like the Flying J. And it was a good marriage, because Pilot needed bigger facilities, truthfully, because you would go into fuel and you could be in the fuel aisles for hours because they were so tiny, so compact. But at the same time, they have a great rewards program for truckers, and they're not paying me for this. I'm just going into this because it all fits in to help you understand. They have a great program for truckers, so that's why a lot of truck drivers use them, because you can go in, you can fuel up, and you'll get a shower for free. Showers are like gold and for a truck driver, running, trying to find a place, bathroom. I just, hey, it is what it is. And you want to rest, you want to get a good, time for sleeping and just refresh. A lot of truckers go to Pilots, and now that Pilot and Flying J are one, they've done some great upgrades. So this company, as he was saying, they have a 20% market share in the fuel of diesel. That's very significant, and you're going to hear why as we go through this video. I tell you, these are things people are not aware of. We're running around thinking it's Biden, it's Kamala, it's Trump. It's more than that. They are like 1% of what is really happening. There are other forces behind the scene, agencies and things like that you guys have really got to be aware of. So here,
20%, as well as 30% of the diesel exhaust fluid supply, also known as DEF. Similar to my colleagues here, Pilot is facing a threat of severe reduction in rail service allocations. For Pilot, the service reduction allocations are being imposed by the Union Pacific Railroad. On April 13th, we were informed by the Union Pacific that we were required to reduce shipments by 26%.
All right, so let's get some context into what he is getting at. There are, like I said, rails. So basically what he is saying here is the Union Pacific Rail basically told him he needed to reduce his shipping volumes. And he's going to get into why, a little bit why. I'm not clear on it. Now, I might do some more backstory as we get in here later. But there has been another video I saw pointed out that Union Pacific and who was the other one? Warren Buffett, if you guys aren't familiar with him, he is a investor, and he bought one of the rail companies. So Warren Buffett, let's see, who did he buy? Buffett Rail, let's see, he bought BNSF. That is Burlington Northern Santa Fe Freight, I think it is, that he bought. Let me see. Yeah, which railroad does Warren Buffett own? It says here, share my screen with you guys. So Warren Buffett currently owns one railroad, BNSF. Buffett has started that buying BNSF represents a belief in the future of the U.S. economy. Although the U.S., North American, and global economies grow and shrink, railroads will play crucial roles in supply chain for decades. And it's can't even add nothing to that. Absolutely. So good investment on him. I understand his strategy, and that he's purchasing things that are what investor gurus like to say inflation tolerant, or they will always be needed in our economy no matter what. And that is trucking and transportation, because the supply chain, without it, you don't have toilet paper. That could just end it right there. I know a lot of y'all, y'all would know what to do. What to do if you had to use some paper bags and some newspaper. And we don't even have newspaper like we used to. So, hey, anyway, that's what he just bought. Now, I don't want to, they always be trying to sell me something, man. So, anyway, the other railroad that was not bought, let me see if I can search and get that up in front of you so we can have some context. The railroads. Let's see. We have Norfolk Southern Railroad, which is in Georgia, and let's see. Okay, here we go. Let's see. I want to know the name of the companies. I want to know the name of the rail companies. Oh, there's a lot of them. Oh, dang. Okay, so we actually got more than what I thought. I know the two main ones are BNSF and Norfolk Southern. So that's what this guy is talking about. I know I'm trying to give you guys context while I watch this.
In subsequent conversations, we were asked to reduce them even further by 50% or face embargoes. We're not aware of any other company being instructed by the Union Pacific or any other railroad to reduce their shipments to the extent they're asking Pilot. We understand through conversations with the Union Pacific that its allocations are based on a simplistic approach of looking at those shippers who have increased their number of shipments between January 2022 and March 2022. This does not take into account the overall number of shipments received at Pilot's facilities, which, by the way, have remained static over this period. We believe the Union Pacific's approach does not fairly and proportionately allocate the supply issues, because Pilot has not increased the total number of cars it's received every month since January. What's actually happened is Pilot has become a shipper on some for some cars that we were not shippers before. So our facilities are still receiving the same number of cars. It's just the name of who's shipping has changed because we've taken control over some of the cars because of the issues we've had with the railroads, so that we have the optionality to deliver these cars in markets that they can take, right? So the total number of cars has stayed the same. We understand and appreciate that the current market conditions are imposing significant constraints on the railroads, and we're committed to help ease this congestion. However, 26 to 50% reduction in our allocations will have substantial consequences for the markets.
Okay, so what he's talking about right now in regards to, he made the statement that Union Pacific is basically indicating that they cannot ship as much because there's so much freight being shipped on the railroads. So to add context to what he's talking about, like I said before, you can move freight by ocean, air, truck, rail. Anything overseas is coming in either by air or ocean. Domestically, if it's small enough, depending on the size, it can also move by air. So if you want to send something from Los Angeles to New York, Los Angeles to Georgia, you can move that freight by air. UPS has its own planes, FedEx has its own planes. That's how, and I believe DHL may have a few planes as well, but that's how they move their freight. When it's smaller packages, they move it by plane across the country, and it saves them having to put it in a truck and wait for that. Trucking can take a while, as does putting it on a rail car. When gas prices go up, most of the time what will happen is full container loads, what you see coming off the ships, full container loads, they will be loaded onto a rail, and that rail will be sent across the United States and distributed through their hubs. So what he is talking about here is because fuel prices have been on the rise now for quite some time, and they're not going down anytime soon, and as you can see why. What happens is, to save on freight transportation costs, companies will put the freight on a rail and have it move across by rail. You can fit more. It moves still slow, yet the cost is way lower than moving it by truck. And then when it gets to that facility, that rail facility, it's taken off of the rail, and a truck driver pulls it to the warehouse within that area. So what is happening is, because companies are trying to reduce the freight costs of draying freight from, say, California or the West Coast, that's you're either bringing in ports from the West Coast, the Gulf of Mexico, or the East Coast in New York, and the port of South Carolina, I think, is another big port, Savannah. Instead of having to dray that way, they're just railing it inland. And so there's very few water ports inland. I think the Mississippi River, I don't know if I think a long time ago they might have done something like that, but I don't think the water levels are as where they should be in order for it to be drayed or shipped to get through and plop down in the middle of the United States. So you have to bring it in from the outer ports into the inland ports and then go from there. So a lot of companies, your Walmarts, your Amazons, your Targets, these companies buy trailer loads of goods and they bring them into the United States. It's got to get into the inland port somehow, and they're using rail. So when that happens, they're being pushed off. Basically, Union Pacific is saying, I can only move so many, and I'm asking you to give up your space. Now, it makes sense because we need food and we need, all these commodities, but it's also impacting fuel cost. So it's definitely a
would like to take this opportunity to take you through a few of the consequences that Union Pacific's mandate will have on the supply chain, the availability of fuel, and fuel prices. First, let me talk about the DEF supply chain. And just as a reminder, we supply about 30% of the DEF in the United States. The trucking sector is dependent on DEF.
All right, I know I keep stopping, but I got to give you guys, help you understand, because a lot of you may not understand, what is he talking about? What is DEF? DEF is something that trucks have to have, and this came about due to emissions control. So once upon a time, it was just diesel. And then EPA issued some mandates to cut down what was polluting our air. And the solution was adding this extra unit onto the trucks to almost like recycle the exhaust back. Well, DEF was born out of that. So when truckers fuel, it's more than just diesel they need. They also need DEF. And it goes into a little container. Now, the containers are not as big as you would fill up a tank, and it does last a lot longer. So, but it's mandatory. If a truck driver does not have DEF, they lose power in their powertrain, and their truck won't move, or it'll move slowly until it winds up just shutting down. So DEF is critical.
Manufactured after 2010 cannot operate without DEF. And Pilot operates, if not the largest, one of the largest DEF supply networks in the country. We have 23 rail-served DEF facilities that make the DEF, and we have 18 rail transloaders. Of the 300 plus million gallons of DEF that Pilot supplies to the industry every year.
Did you get that? 300 million gallons that Pilot supplies to the transportation industry. $300 million. I had to pause right there.
74% is,
excuse me, 300 million gallons, not dollars, 300 million gallons.
Moved via rail. Union Pacific's restrictions will prevent Pilot from keeping many markets adequately supplied with DEF, likely causing shortages that'll sideline trucks and reduce trucking capacity. Let me give you some context.
Now, my company experienced this, a shortage in DEF. We went a few days where we did not have DEF on our site. And we, the company I drive for, they buy their DEF in bulk, and they have we have our own fuel lines. So this still affects us because chances are we're probably buying it from a wholesaler like Pilot, because they are one of the big players in this field. But when we experienced this shortage, we had to go out into Pilots and so forth and buy DEF. Now you can buy it in these containers and fill it up. Yeah, it just became very problematic when this happened. So this does have a serious impact on transportation companies and truckers as a whole.
A single rail car carries 21,500 gallons of DEF on average, okay? A single truck generally takes in 7 gallons of DEF every time they fill. This is based on our data. So that implies that a single rail car is basically providing 3,000 trucks worth of DEF fills. For some more context, basically every rail car that gets missed in terms of DEF delivery will reduce trucking potential by 5 million miles. All right, that's a really big number. 5
million miles. I was writing down some numbers here because I think it's important to understand what is he. How do you wrap your head around what he's talking about and how it connects to your wallet, your pocketbook, and what you're buying out here? Apple computers, Apple watches, Gatorade, sodas, you name it. How is all of that affecting you when you go to the movies now, when you're going out to an event, when you're buying a hamburger? How is all of that impacting, or is it influencing? So basically 5 million miles. Now, to go from New York to California is about 3,000 miles the last time I checked. Let's just go. I'm going to go over here to Google Maps. I promise I won't take it forever. So let's go over here to Google Maps. And I want to go from New York. I want to go New York. Okay. Ba, 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 ba. Directions. And California. California. Okay. Look at there. All right. It is, and they go by zip codes. So we're looking at 2,914 miles. That's how many miles between New York and California. Now, of course, they're going by the basic zip codes of those two states. So you're looking at trucks moving if they had to dray something or pull something up to from California to New York, 2,914 miles, and he's saying 5 million miles. So let's just get an idea of how many trucks that impacts if they had to pull freight from California. So I'm going to get on my little handy dandy here, calculator. Yeah, I'm using anybody have an iPad or iPod? That's what I'm using. All right, so we got 5 million miles divided by, I'm just going to round it up to 3,000. So that's 1,666. We're going to say 2,000 trucks. So he's basically saying 2,000 trucks are impacted by this mandate from Union Pacific in regards to the fuel. That's basically what he's saying. 2,000 trucks. So that's 2,000 trucks that may not get to move. That's 2,000 trucks that won't dray or move freight across the country because they won't have access to the fuel. That is a lot of trucks. So definitely something to keep in mind.
Million miles, because you've got 3,000 fills, and DEF blends with diesel at a ratio of 2.7% for 100 gallons. All right. So 2.7 gallons of DEF allow a truck to drive to use 100 gallons. Furthermore, a reduction in freight transported by the UP will only add additional pressure on the trucking sector in general. The railways are pulling back. We got to move the stuff on trucks. If we can't supply DEF, there's more pressure on the sector, and we let the sector down. Second, fuel availability and pricing. Let me begin with diesel. U.S. diesel inventories today are running 10 to 15% below what they have been in the last 5 years at their lowest point. So if you take the minimum diesel inventory over the last 5 years, today we're 10 to 15% below that number. Certain markets like the Northeast.
So if what he's basically saying is the inventory. So if I had 50 beans of diesel back in 10 years ago, my inventory is at 15 beans of diesel. I'm 15% below that now. So not only I have less beans of diesel, I can't move as much beans of diesel because the rail is telling me I can't move it. So it goes down even further as far as the availability of DEF, as DEF availability in the market. And DEF is required for these trucks. I know you're probably thinking, oh, we need electric trucks right now. In order for you to get those electric trucks, you need a diesel truck right now to move those parts to the manufacturer to make it. Just saying.
The West and the Southwest are even in a worse shape than the rest of the country. Renewable fuels like biodiesel, renewable diesel move exclusively on rail, on ships, or on trucks, and there are no pipeline alternatives. Certain states like California are heavily dependent on the imports of renewable fuels that are generally transported on rail. Fourth, over 50% of Pilot's renewable diesel is transported on rail, and having our capacity cut by 50% would actually increase fuel prices in these states and potentially run out some of these locations. Let me now address the challenge with gasoline. In order for gasoline to meet the octane requirements required by engines, 87 to 93 octane, you have to blend gasoline with ethanol to get to that level of octane so that you could use it in a car. Ethanol, like bio and renewable diesel, basically moves on trucks, ships, or rail. In certain markets like parts of Arizona, Nevada, Pilot, in partnership with Union Pacific, has actually developed ethanol unloading facilities, and we serve majority of these markets. Cutting Pilot's ability to ship ethanol from its plant in Nebraska to these markets by 50% will substantially reduce the amount of gasoline available in these markets because we can't blend the ethanol into the gasoline. and would result in a further increase in prices during time.
All right. I had to pause because we need to let that just sink in on what's he's saying. And we're feeling it now. So if you saw this video back in April, you probably thought, oh, it's April, things will change. Well, here it is, July, and the gas pump prices continue to go up, and they will continue to go up. I know Biden's talking about, well, they're going up because of Ukraine, and until we get that situated. Well, here's another element to that. Yes, there is some truth to what Biden is saying as far as Ukraine, the Ukraine battle and Russia battle has an impact on our fuel. But this right here is domestic impact. Can't worry about what's going on over there right now because we got our own issues right here. And as he's saying, if you cannot mix the products because it doesn't get to the facility, you can't get the gas, you can't fill up the car, you're not going to get to work unless you go by bus. And we know Gwinnett County, I don't know about anybody else in your counties, in your states, but I know here in Gwinnett County, Georgia, we don't have a public transportation system as efficient as some of these places around the United States, like California, New York. So you're dependent on having your vehicle, and you must have the fuel to fuel it so you can get to work, so you can make the money, so you can buy the groceries that aren't on the shelf. Man, there is a lot going on here. And these are the elements that are happening in the background that a lot of people aren't aware of, and they want to point fingers at the Biden administration. What can they do? It's not always about presidents waving wands and issuing executive orders to get it fixed.
When gasoline prices are up 48% since April 2021.
48% they're up.
To summarize, we believe UP's allocation logic is flawed, it's disproportionate, and unprecedented. If implemented, it'll have three impacts. There'll be a significant impact on DEF supply, potentially stranding a large number of trucks.
Which we already see.
A negative impact on diesel and gasoline supply and prices in an already challenged market.
We see.
And it'll hurt our supply chain during times that we cannot afford it.
We see that.
On behalf of Pilot, our 70,000 trucking fleet customers, and the million customers that we serve in our stores every day, to keep America moving, I want to thank you for this opportunity to testify here today, to describe the situation and highlight the potential consequences to the country if this is left unresolved. As mentioned at the beginning, we want to be part of the solution, but the current situation is untenable for us. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
So all in all, and we're going to watch a couple questions because I'm curious to see what they ask. But all in all, what you just witnessed and observed is Pilot being a major contributor to our fuel and diesel and DEF is being basically instructed by Union Pacific. Obviously, Union Pacific is their main transportation hub coming out of Nebraska. And you probably think, well, why can't you use another rail? Well, it's not that easy. It's not like you can just move rail, you can't just pop it and bring it over here. There are, I'm sure, stipulations. But the situation that is happening right now in the transportation supply chain logistics industry is definitely having an impact on all of our lives in many, many ways. To build a house, you need supplies. All that stuff has to move by rail or truck. To buy your groceries, to get your water. I drink bottled water. All the snacks, all those things that we enjoy are being impacted. I saw a story the other day. Even feminine products are being impacted and are not as readily available on some shelves in some states as they should be. And these are things that we have taken for granted and that have not really been talked about in the news, because up until COVID, everybody did not challenge supply. They didn't think about it. Now they are thinking about it. Now they're wondering. You can blame, you can hear, the news likes to say it's the shortage of truckers. If a trucker can't move his vehicle because he doesn't have the money for the fuel, then it's not that we don't have enough truckers, it's we don't have enough fuel. That's the real problem. And if you do have the fuel, the cost of the fuel is the second problem. So those are the factors that determine. I do not believe any truck driver, as a truck driver myself, no truck driver should be moving freight that puts them at a loss. That's just stupid. So we're going to check out a couple of questions because I'm curious to see what they ask him in this video. I think his mic is off. There we go.
Do you have that are served by UP?
I don't have the precise number of locations, but what happens is the UP brings in I'll talk about DF into 40 locations in the US, and then we distribute it on trucks. So we've got 23 facilities and 17 to 18 transloaders. So once we create the DEF, we put it on a truck and take it out to our retail locations. But wholesale, it would be about 40 or 41.
41 places that UP delivers to you?
Doesn't deliver to all of them, but about 70% of it gets delivered by UP. And one of our challenges is DEF is made out of urea. So, it's tied to the fertilizer industry. And UP actually is single serve to a lot of urea manufacturing facilities. So even if I wanted to get somebody else to get the DEF, we couldn't.
Next question, are there any places where a switching order or there is some alternative could get you what you needed during this time?
Right now, UP is responsible for over 40 or 45% of our DEF supply. So if they had trackage rights, I mean, we've obviously gone and tried to talk to some other railroads saying like, hey, can you help us out? But most of them are unable to because of the constraints they have on their system, and they don't have trackage rights.
What was the message that UP sent? Tell us how they explained it to you.
The way they explained it to us was they basically, and let me get the exact numbers. So they basically sent us a note saying that in the last week, you shipped about 190 cars for the week, and we want you to reduce it by 46 cars, basically about 6 cars a day. And otherwise, we're going to embargo you. They gave us a week to do it. They have not embargoed us yet, and we haven't reduced the cars because we would be in deep trouble if we reduce the cars. We have reached out back to the UP a number of times asking for either a meeting with their senior leadership so that we can explain the consequences to them. We've had our outside counsel reach out to UP's outside counsel, but really have not had any engagement back from UP at this point.
I thought you related it to they were saying the people who've shipped a lot, those are the ones we're cutting. Is that the way you understood it?
Yes. So they according to their metric, they feel like we've increased our shipments from January to March. What's actually happened is we've just taken over as shipper on a number of the cars. The total number of cars has not really changed. So, but if you look at it with Pilot as the shipper, we have increased by about 60 cars a month. But in reality, those cars were coming to our locations anyways.
I'm still trying to figure out a business model where a company says, please don't buy our product. I'm sure somebody will explain that one to me before the day is out. I meant to say earlier, by the way, that Robert Primus, of course, is still with us. So why don't I ask Robert if he has any questions, and then we'll see if there are any up here, and then we'll go forward. So, but thank you very much.
Good morning, Marty. So are we not doing the whole panel? Are we just doing just this individual?
It's going to do this witness because he has to get out of here, Mr. Konar.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Konar, thank you very much for agreeing to actually come before the panel and talk about this. Can you talk about sort of the downstream effect if this embargo were to take place on the industry? Like how would it affect the price going forward?
So I'd break that up in two pieces. One is if the embargo were to take place and we were not able to move DEF on the UP, we would probably at this point lose about 35% to 40% of our DEF supply where we do not have alternatives. And, from an annual perspective, that would mean we would miss about 100 million gallons of DEF. And, you multiply that by, like I said, each rail car is worth about 5 million miles of trucking. If you lose 100 million gallons of DEF, it would be absolutely catastrophic because we don't just supply ourselves, we supply a lot of the market because we supply 30% of DEF in the United States. So I mean, the consequences there, I mean, not only would I get fired, but there'd be a lot more to it. But
you should be held holding the bag. I mean, obviously, it's not your fault in terms of you're cutting it back. I mean, my question I was trying to get to is, so if you've got to cut back 35 to 40% of DEF, you say that the trucks after 2010, all of them require it. What does that go to the cost of purchasing that? I mean, where's the price now? If that doomsday were to happen,
actually, you just couldn't get it. Well, Sharon, you just could not get the DEF because there isn't the U.S. numbers. The U.S. consumes about 1 billion gallons of DEF. We supply more than 300 million, somewhere between 300 and 350 million. You could not replace 100 million gallons of DEF in any kind of reasonable time frame. You could maybe replace it by next year.
So what happens economically? I mean,
it's an absolute disaster. I mean, trucking is already so tight, and we're having so many issues with freight, right? So,
all right. So, Robert Primus, I understand his questioning, and the numbers as we talked about before. So he said before, 5 million miles is what would be impacted if DEF was reduced according to UP, just not the embargo, but just reducing the amount of shipments that the Union Pacific wants them to take out. So that's 5 million miles. And then I determined that that's a total about 3,000 trucks to move from the equivalent of 3,000 trucks moving from California to New York. So for basically a good number to kind of figure this out is for every 3,000 miles of movement, or for every 5 million miles of movement, let me back it up. So for every 5 million miles of movement, that's 3,000 trucks. For every 5 million miles, that's 3,000 trucks. So 100 million miles, we are looking at, I know I could probably do the math, but I'm going to do it this way. So 100 million miles so that is 20, so we'll say 3,000. That's 60,000 trucks. 60,000 trucks can be impacted at minimum. 60,000 trucks moving from New York to California and vice versa. So that is a lot of goods, Gerber baby food, Pampers, women and feminine hygiene products, milk, just think about all the things that come in and move by truck. Everything. So this is a very significant. This is very significant information that is not being discussed in the news. This video came out in April, and here we are in July 4th. Hey, Independence Day, and we're still seeing the impact of something slowing down in the system. Now, one thing I wanted to draw your attention to, I don't know if you heard it, but he talked about where they get the raw material to make death, which comes from the fertilizer industry. And that is going to be impacted. That's impacting food. So all of those things, we're all interconnected. Everything is interlinked in some fashion, form, or way. But it's definitely has a problem.
It would be, the simple way for me to say is, it would be equivalent to removing 10% of the trucks from the road today.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
For those of us outside your industry, could you just explain what DEF is and why it's important?
Ma'am, I should have started with that. DEF is diesel emissions fluid. It's a urea derivative which reduces NOx emissions coming out of the tailpipe of trucks. And you know, with all the CAFE standards and the clean air standards over time, NOx emissions have been reduced pretty substantially. And since 2010, there's a rule basically that you cannot make trucks that don't use DEF because you have to have the NOx emissions reduced. So all 2010 plus vintage trucks, and there aren't that many that go too far back because, you know, a long distance truck is doing 250,000 miles a year or so. You know, you don't survive longer than that. Pretty much all the trucks right now have to have DEF.
So did you catch that? A long distance truck does 250,000 miles a year. 250,000 miles a year. One truck will do in 12 months. One truck will do that in 12 months. And we're talking about 60,000 vehicles being impacted by this. So 60,000 vehicles that travel 250,000 miles a year. Look, my calculator doesn't even do the math. It's crazy. So 250,000 times 60,000 vehicles. I don't even know how to say this number. I don't know how to say this number. Look at that. That's how many miles is impacted. That's how many miles is impacted. 250,000 miles divided by 3,000. That's 83 trips from California to New York and back. 83 trips. That's 83 trips. 60,000 trucks can do 83 trips from California to New York and back. I mean, just, are you wrapping your head around this? It's absolutely amazing how this information is not being talked about, but it is having a significant impact on your wallet, how you live, how you sleep, how you eat, how you work. But the news is talking about Will Smith slap.
And you actually can't turn the engine on if your DEF tank's empty. So it's not a choice.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Marty.
Very helpful. Robert, do you have something else? Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Just a follow-up question, if you don't mind. You were talking about your production now. Have you changed at all, you know, in terms of your production? You know, why are you sort of threatening this embargo? I mean, with all the cars, are you adding cars because of you know, what reason? Are you coming? Is it because of greater production? You said that production's been steady. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We're actually not adding cars. So what has happened is we've actually become the shipper of record on a number of cars that we were not before. So we still got the same number of cars going, but we've taken control, becoming the shipper, because we needed to have some more flexibility with the rail issues we've been having as to where to, kind of where to move the cars and how to move the cars. So, and this has happened both in DEF and our ethanol.
I think I've lost you. I can't hear you.
Gotta love technology. He's steady talking.
1 second, we're working on it.
Okay, so we lost the voice. I'm gonna let it play in the background, and hopefully they'll catch up to what's happening. But basically, what he is indicating here is he hasn't increased the amount of fuel that he has.
I can't hear anybody. I don't know if I can hear
We'll
you.
be right with you, Robert. We're working on it now.
He hasn't increased the amount of fuel. What has happened is he has taken possession of the cars. So it appears on paper that he's shipping more, but he's still shipping the same amount. And that's just a matter of semantics. So it has no relevance. The physical is what's important. What's moving across the transportation rail? 60 cars. That's it. So it looks like that particular piece is over, and they still don't have any they still don't have any sound. So a lot of the hearing obviously was missed. As you can see, I still got it playing, and they're talking. Robert Primus has gone off and done something else. So it is what it is. So basically, I wanted to do this commentary for this video to add context to what you're seeing in the transportation industry, help you understand that the current administration has influence, but it doesn't have all influence. The past administration didn't even have that kind of influence. It is a matter of what a rail company can and cannot do, what it has asked a customer to not do, and how that decision, that interaction, that request impacts the economy when it comes to fuel and the supply chain and logistics. So what we're seeing here overall is we've got a lot of moving parts in the transportation and logistics industry that people have just not been aware of. I've been in this business for 28 years. 28 years. I have watched this industry go up and down, up and down. I'll be honest, this is the first time I have been able to see this happen. It might have happened before, but I didn't have the technology to basically peer into a Zoom room and hear the conversation, and now that is available. So if you like what you have seen today, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing more commentaries on videos like this to help you as a consumer, as a transportation and logistics specialist, as a business owner, understand how the supply chain and logistics industry is impacting your business, your life, and what you are going through. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and hey, just you might want to go buy a bike. I'm telling you, y'all might want to go buy a bike, because right now, honey, it's looking kind of ugly. All right, guys. Peace.